We welcome to the show, this is always my favorite part when we bring in the guest, Mr. Tim Erlin, the Director of Product Management at Tripwire. Tim, thank you very much for coming on to speak with us.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
Oh, but before we go any further, people have probably heard of Tripwire. You're pretty big. You're a very active company. Could you tell us, what is Tripwire? What do you do?
Sure, happy to. So Tripwire is a provider of advanced threat, security, and compliance solutions, primarily for the enterprise. So we help customers figure out what's in their environment, gain visibility into how they're vulnerable, how they might be misconfigured, and also manage compliance of their devices against a number of standards.
Compliance has been a big topic on TWiT, everything from PCI compliance to HIPAA compliance. When you walk into a new installation, a new deploy, a new client, how do you typically handle that? I mean, you have to do a lot of research to make sure you know what compliances they're supposed to have, but then how do you bring them up to that compliance level?
Sure. So generally speaking, with our customers, they start with a problem that they're looking to have us help solve. So they're often in the process, with compliance specifically, if we're not talking about security, they're in the process of either building or updating a compliance program that they have in place. So they have a good sense of which standards or which regulations they need to be compliant with. And what we really do is provide tools that allow them to gain visibility in their organization across their assets on how they're not compliant, how they are compliant, and provide information about how they can make changes in the environment to improve their compliance. So achieve and maintain compliance is really the goal.
This is a topic that really interests me, because I've seen this trend over the last couple of decades. Hopefully you can give us your input on this. Compliance was never easy, but it seemed more simple in the past, because you had businesses that had their defined niche. You were a finance company, or you were a technology company, you were a healthcare company, and that defined what compliance standards you needed to have in your policies. But now the modern company is gonna bridge a lot of those different industries, and so you find companies that have multiple compliance standards that they have to include in their policies. And I'd even say that sometimes you're going to find compliance standards that will compete with one another. How do you deal with that when you approach a client and they say, look, we deal with healthcare records, but at the same time we do financial, and at the same time we do X, Y, and Z that requires access to this information, which could possibly violate these other compliance standards? Well, what advice do you give them?
Well, that's part of the challenge with visibility, or one of the objectives with visibility, I should say, is to help customers understand, what's in their environment and where those policies might apply, and give them the ability to do intelligent grouping of servers and other devices so that they can apply compliance policies appropriately. And also, you mentioned the relative simplicity of the past. It used to be that you could run some of these compliance programs in a fairly manual fashion, but that aggregation of standards and policies really drives the need for automation. So a fair amount of what we do is help customers take something they're doing manually now that takes a lot of time and automate that process.